Now, I'm giving you a £2 tip in advance because
smashing.
I always want to be at the front of the queue.
Look at that.
Lunch is on Harry.
So, good morning everyone. Are we excited on this fine Sunday morning? Not Sunday, Saturday. Saturday morning. Are we all fine and dandy?
Yeah.
Super. Well, as you know, I'm Harry. This is the first walk and talk ever. The first one, so aren't you all lucky people? We've got Chris here from Norfolk. Hello, Chris. Hello, Chris. He's going to be the cameraman today. Where are you all from? Where are you from?
Suffolk.
Suffolk. Not far from Norfolk. Who else?
Planet Earth.
Planet Earth. That's a good one. Of course, of course. Say that again, sorry?
Cheshire.
Cheshire, all the way from Cheshire. Look at that. Oh, no pressure then, no pressure. Well, first up on the way, this lovely monument here. Now, have you had the chance to have a quick read and have a guess on what the monument is about?
Yeah, Frederick.
Frederick, the Duke of York. Who has heard of the nursery rhyme, the Duke of York?
Yeah, 10,000 men.
10,000 men. Can we all sing it? The grand old Duke of York. Yeah, 10,000 men. That's it. Go on, keep going, keep going. Spot on. Well, that nursery rhyme, like most nursery rhymes, it's not exactly about the Duke of York himself. That nursery rhyme was actually first created in 1642. Now, the Duke of York here, he was born in 1795 as such. So, a little bit later on in this time. The actual first nursery rhyme was about a French king who had about 40,000 men as well, went up to top of the hill and down again. But no, that one's also been incorporated with the Duke of York. Now, he was King George III's second son, and he's quite famous for simply only having one big major significant campaign that tarnished his military career quite badly because he lost. He lost that battle. But he was also Commander-in-Chief of the British Army. He also fought the Napoleonic Wars. Who's heard of Napoleon? Yeah, of course you have Napoleon there, the short French guy. So this monument here, quite tall, 164 stairs to reach a viewing platform at the top. That shut a few decades ago. He did have a mistress called Anne Clark. Now that mistress, she did some terrible things she did. She used to sell commissions. Who know what commissions are? Does anybody know at all? Commissions are something where you buy a commission to basically up your rank in the army. So you might say to me, here Harry, come here, if you give me £10, I'll become a colonel or a sergeant. So this mistress of his, Anne Clark, used to sell commissions illegally with his knowledge, and also damage his reputation even further. So he got rid of the army, he got reinstated later on, but no, a bit of trouble with that mistress there. So 164 steps to reach the top. That monument right at the top there weighs 16,140 pounds, so quite heavy, quite heavy. Yeah, we'll move on to the next location. All right, follow me this way. So we've come to the next place now. This bronze equestrian statue of Edward VII. Now, Edward VII, he wasn't really keen for that long, simply because his mother, Queen Victoria, was in it for quite a bit of a long time, she was. So he was waiting for the throne for about 60 odd years he was, but he finally got there in 1901, lasted till 1910, so he was there for a very, very short period, but despite that, he had had quite a good legacy, quite a good reputation. So it was also quite important for the British Army, just like the Duke of York was, but not for positive reasons. Edward VII was for better positive reasons. So he's very well known for reorganising the home fleet, modernising the British Royal Navy, and you had the HMS Dreadnought class coming in 1903 during his reign. He's also known for reforming the army after the Second Boer War, which was in the 1899-1901 sort of time in South Africa. He's labelled the peacemaker, simply because he had very good relations with France and Russia. It was him that sort of helped create the Triple Entente. Who's heard of the Triple Entente?
I haven't.
No, so World War I, 1914 to 1918, treaty signed in 1919. It was against the Triple Entente, so France, Russia, Britain and their allies, and the Triple Axis. And that was the Germany, Austria-Hungary, stuff like that, okay, and their empires. So he was labelled the peacemaker because he wanted to try and get better relations. But his nephew, Kaiser Wilhelm in Germany, the Empire of Germany there, it was a little bit of a nuisance for Edward VII here. He was like, well, if you've got this HMS Dreadnought class, this massive battleship cruise that he invented and created, I want to build up my navy too. So that's what Wilhelm II did. Got a little bit tense there between the two countries, and of course, eventually, the First World War happened in 1914. So those labelled the peacemaker, Wilhelm II sort of says, now you're not a bloody peacemaker, it was you that caused the First World War. Yeah, any questions about him? So like I said, you've had the Second Boer War statue there of Edward VII, Duke of York behind the Napoleonic Wars. This one here, Crimea War. Who's heard of the Crimean War? One has. Who's heard of the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade? I thought you would have as well, no doubt of English GCSE literature. So the big statue right at the back there, that was created in 1861. It originally was not put there. It was actually about 30 feet closer to us. It got moved in 1914, so Florence Nightingale and Sidney Herbert can have their statues put up with it. So the battle in Crimea, that was caused by the Russians trying to take advantage of the weakening Ottoman Empire, because at the time they'll try and get as much land as it can, because the more land an empire has, the more money and resource it has. Florence Nightingale. Who's heard of Florence Nightingale? Yes. 1, 2, 3. I thought more of you would have heard of Florence Nightingale. So very famous, known as the Lady with the Lamp. She went to Crimea during one of the horrific winters that they had there, and she'd managed to secure a fund of £30,000 of British public money to try and help the soldiers of ever so desperate need of resources. And Sidney Herbert, the Secretary of State of War during the time of the Battle of Crimea there. And those two were quite good chums, they were. And Sidney Herbert said, Florence, go to the Crimea, sort out the mess that's there. And that's what she did. So quite famous for that. She was based at Sikatari Hospital, which is an old Turkish barracks, so not quite in Crimea, but definitely saw some of the more horrific sides of the war. Some of the well-known famous battles there, you've got Sevastopol, Battle of Inkerman, and of course the Charge of the Light Brigade. The Charge of the Light Brigade was a catastrophe for the British Army. It had a 40% casualty rate, simply because of orders getting mixed up and people not knowing what they had to do and being charged into a Russian battle infantry there, or artillery infantry. So decimated, called the Valley of Death.
How many people died?
40% it was, yeah.
How many do you reckon were there?
So they're roughly 100 to 200 men. I can't remember the top of my head now. Bit in between that sort of figure there. But at least 50 or 60 were injured as well.
And what's that? Is that Justice at the top? Who's that lady?
So that lady there hasn't actually got a name. It wasn't until 1914 that the name was actually put onto her, and I think it was Victory. I think they named her in the end. I think that's what they named her. Or Saviour. It's either Victory or Saviour, I can't quite recall. But originally she didn't have a name, no. With the peace and war, some of the casting that they've got there has been made from captured guns from the Russians.
Really?
And then melted it, moulded it and cast it into what you have there.
Really good bit of information, that is.
That's the same with Trafalgar Square also. Some of the stuff around Trafalgar Square has been casted from captured French guns. So, can everybody have a read on who this is? You can only just about see it. King George who? First, second, third? Or not quite second, third. King George III. So we saw the Grand Old Duke of York, Prince Frederick. Here's King George III's second son. So with this is his father here, King George. King George is quite well known simply because he's been the longest male king to serve. It was for 59 years, 96 days, something like that. Close to 60 years it was. So crazy.
60 years.
6 years. So the longest male British king has ever been. And of course that's been then taken over by Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II. Originally, he was dubbed as a farmer simply because of his interest in mundane matters. He wasn't really sort of into it as such. But later on became very well known, especially with the agriculture uprising that happened until this a great advancement during the Great Revolution. So during that revolution, simply because of the agriculture output increased so much, the population at the time was 5.5 million in 1700, and went to nearly 10 million, nearly doubled in the matter of 100 years, simply because of how much food was available to him. But he's also been quite well known for not having such positive things to him. Have you all heard of the Atlantic slave trade at all? So he supported the Atlantic slave trade. It took him about nearly 20 years of all this uprising and said, no, we don't want this anymore. It took nearly 20 years for him to sign the act to say, no, we're not going to have it anymore as such. Definitely. Say it again, louder, louder, tell him off, tell him off. But the act that he signed in, I want to say it's 1807, I want to say it was, the act he signed, it prohibited the slave trade, but didn't actually stop the slave trade altogether. It was also trying to encourage other countries, such as the United States, who did their act a year later, to say, no, we're not going to be doing slavery. Quite a lot of people think it was Britain that put the first act in place, but it wasn't at all. Britain was likely the third or fourth country down the history to do so. So yeah.
Right, because I know somebody who does keep saying it was Britain that did that.
Tell them different. No, it wasn't Britain that did it first at all. It wasn't. I can't on the top of my head. It will tell you no information guide it would do. So of course, because it's the longest raining.
Really nice rains. The rains are fine. George.
With the chickens. I don't know about that one. The fourth plinth at the back. Have you heard about that at all? The fourth plinth. 2 years. And rather than being empty, they put a statue on there temporarily at the end of the 20th century. And that statue they had about 3 temporary statues on there. And that's when an idea came up by the London Commission, by the Mayor of London, to say, yeah, you know what, we'll put something there every so often. And that one there, that's going to go next year in September. I can't remember the name of the art off the top of my head, but it's meant to represent the end. It's called The End, that's the artwork there. I've all sorts of random ones there in the past, including a blue chicken. I want to say once it was a blue chicken.
I saw a blue cock.
Yeah.
I also saw that thalidomide that was made by a thalidomide. It's a woman without any arms and legs. That was
You just got to try and figure out what it is, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Looks like an ice cream with a cherry on the top.
It is. So it's melted whipped cream with a cherry, a drone, and a fly. That's what's on it. So who knows what this is here? What is that column of?
Is that the death of Nelson?
Nelson's column based in Trafalgar Square. Why is it called Trafalgar Square, do you reckon?
Was that where the fight of Trafalgar started?
The Battle of Trafalgar. He was born at, died in that. That was against the French and Spanish. Complete victory. He died in that battle. Now Nelson was a respected admiral of the Royal Navy. He's been known to have quite a good posture, looking nice, looking like a gentleman, but in reality he had missing teeth and frey white hair. But he's been made to look very, very strong. So he died in that battle, and to commemorate such a great victory, because that meant Napoleon could not own the waters, the British Empire owned the waters of the world. It was such a great victory for Britain that made Trafalgar Square to commemorate him. So across from each of the columns there, those bronze sort of looking artwork, that's been made by captured French guns that's been melted down and recast. You've got a boulder there. That would also been from a cannon as well, captured, no doubt as well from the French and Spanish. And the lines around the side there. England have a reputation of being this big, massive, brave line that would go over and conquer countries and be bold and strong, just like lions look now in the wild as such. The artist that drew these lines as such and then sculptured them, it was of an actual lion nearby that was in a zoo. But the lion died whilst he was sculpturing it, which meant when he died, it sort of rotted and sort of went all mangly in that. So the paws of the lion was actually designed by the artist's cat. So the paws of the cat have been put on these lion's ears. Of course, there's not really much of a difference. It's just a little bit smaller on the cat, made bigger. But yeah, something a little bit interesting about the lines there. England expects every man to do his duty. Who's heard of that before, or something similar?
Sorry, every man.
England expects every man to do their duty, fulfil his duty as such. It's written there, right at the front. England expects every man will do his duty. That's what was put up at the start of the battle to say, yes, you know, come on men, we'll fight our way through this. And because it's been attributed to that battle, and because Nelson could not actually say, yes, you know, I won, because he was shot and killed by a French sniper, he could not have that celebration. So after that, England said, you know what, we'll say you can have free speech if you like. Means he couldn't say, you know, yes, I won against the French and Spanish, you lot can have free speech. So Trafalgar Square has always been quite well known for protests to happen here, because this is the centre of free speech, if you like, where all that sort of like started out. And because of that, it got a little bit rowdy at times, so they put a police station here. And that's what we're going to walk to next. If it's not covered up by all this blooming scaffold and stuff like that, though. So hopefully we'll see this out.
What year was that?
What year was what, sorry?
The free speech thing.
So that would have been after 1805, 1805. So Edward VII down here, and then looking at that, he's very, very small, isn't he? Very, very small. So this here, this is Charles the First.
Yeah,
Who has heard of Charles the First? Yeah, a few of you should know about Charles I. Who's heard of the English Civil War?
Yeah, I have.
It was basically him that caused it, so not him. He was caught on treasons simply because of what he was doing at the time. People weren't very happy with him. He believed in the divine right of king, which is basically him saying, God gave me this position to be king, I'm here to stay. I don't want you lot to help me out. And he basically took out the parliament aspect of politics and just let him rule the whole entire country. Be like, no, we don't want any of this. So despite the fact he caused an English Civil War, he has a statue. Now, a bit of history about this statue as such. When it first got put up, and the English Revolution happened and went over and finished, that statue was sold to a smeltsmith. And it was going to be melted down, so it wasn't going to exist. But Charles I Gardener rescued it. He hid it and saved it from being smelted down. And then he got put back up there. But it's facing down that road for a reason. Now it's facing down that road because something happened down that road, and that's how Charles I died. What happened to Charles I's head? Chopped off. His head went, and that was down that road down there. So that's why he's facing down there, because that's where his head was chopped off. But it got put back up, that statue, and the monarchy after Oliver Cromwell was restored in 1660 with Charles II. Yeah, despite the fact that he did a bit of a naughtiness there, he still got a statue thanks to his gardener. It's a bit random.
So what, government and crown?
Second, sorry?
Literally between government and crown.
Between government and crown, because the crown said, no, I'm the only one ruling, it's my divine right to be king.
And the government won.
Government won.
In a sense, you can understand his reasoning, can't you? Because there should only be one ruler. Because if you have two, then you have arguments.
You can, to some extent you can understand it. They're still very superstitious at that time, and with all this Renaissance, new ideas coming in, with people starting to have more rational ideas and thought, he was saying, no, I still want to be king because God's given it to me.
Yeah, so I wonder where the gardener nicked the statue from where it was going to
From where it was going to be mounted, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, who said he could get his head cut off?
Sorry?
Who got his head cut off? So he was in charge. And
he was in charge. He was sentenced for high treason. Because he was taking too much power away from government, and he was saying, no, I'm being a dictator, if you like.
Okay. I'll give you a little
In easy talk, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alright. Beans were here, quite a nice easy spot to talk about Drummond's. Drummond's, who's heard of Drummond's the bank? Not many people have heard of it. It used to be a private bank until Royal Bank of Scotland owned it in the early 1900s. Now it's been told, so legend has it, that there's only one copy of a famous book in there. Now when I talked about the Grand Old Duke of York, I said he had a mistress. Can anybody remember his name that I spoke about at all, that mistress? Anne something. Remember? Who knows what shop I work for? Clark's. Anne Clark was his mistress. So I said at the monument there that his mistress was selling these commissions illegally. And when the relationship ended between the Duke of York and Mary Ann Clark, she said, I'm going to expose you and our secrets and our love and sexual affair. So she wrote her stories in this memoir, and there were 16,000 copies, and the Duke thought, oh crap, she's going to expose us and my secrets. It's going to damage my reputation further. So he brought all 16,000 copies of this book, this memoir book that Anne Clark wrote. And because he brought all 60,000 books, the copywriters basically said to him, you basically own the book now. So legend has it, one book, because he burnt the rest, legend has it that one book of this memoirs is kept in Drummond's Bank there. So legend has it. And if that's exposed today, no doubt that might be worth quite a bit of money. No doubt. So this is Northumberland Avenue that we just walked across there, and Northumberland Street behind us. Northumberland Avenue is on the Monopoly board. Who knows what colour it is?
Purple.
No. Purple?
Yeah.
There ain't no purple.
Green.
It's yellow, isn't it?
No, it's pink. It's before the orange one.
Well, tell me at the end of the day, if you get it right, I'll give you £1 back. There you go. So on Northumberland Avenue here, it's originally built for luxury apartments, luxury houses as such. As you can see. Without being right there. But that changed when a lot of theatres around here, and of course everything went a bit downhill with money and everything like that. And the government started owning and taking the buildings for their own government offices. So you've got the Air Ministry, for example, on the street down here. So luxury apartment into government offices and buildings. That's why it's looking quite wealthy as such. Of course, as you spotted, the Sherlock Holmes. So this here didn't used to be a pub. They got renovated and turned into a pub in the 1950s, 70s, something around like that. And it was called the Sherlock Holmes because in 1951, that's when they had this massive book fair across the country, and that's where Sherlock Holmes really had its rise. So Sherlock Holmes, being just called the Sherlock Holmes pub, you've got a feature up there such as Dr. Watson's revolver that he used. On the upstairs you've got loads of books and base themed about Sherlock Holmes, and inside of it it's got a Victorian theme to it. Who's read Sherlock Holmes or seen the film?
Yes.
Or films I should say, yeah? I can't get into it to be honest.
You owe me £1.
Pink.
I didn't see any of that when I was in there. All I saw was
They've been there before, have you? Hang on that. And of course we all come from Norfolk and Suffolk where Bury St Edmunds is, and it's Bury St Edmunds Green King that owns the Sherlock Holmes there. But the actual memorabilia and collectibles inside is owned and looked after by the Sherlock Holmes Society.
Oh, I think we might have to come back there.
Oh, do you want to go for a drink?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, let's have a drink.
Go for a drink then. Go on.
I'm up for a shandy. Watch me dog.
I can tell you about it now if you want. So, in the Sherlock Holmes pub here, originally called the Northumberland Arms, because this is Northumberland Avenue, Northumberland Street that we're on. That was a hotel originally in the 1880s. That's because there was for a luxury house and apartment. There used to be theatres here, such as the Theatre Playhouse. That was in 1882. It wasn't until 1951 when they had the it was a massive book fair. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head now. That's when they had the Sherlock Holmes collection. That's when this place here was then renovated and turned into a pub. And that's where the story of Sherlock Holmes is now based. That was at the Festival of Britain, 1951, the Festival of Britain. And that was a massive, massive festival that happened across the whole UK, reached millions of people to see this massive festival. And that's when they had a collection down at Baker Street, I think it was, that Sherlock Holmes collection that was then relocated here. Right there, Sherlock Holmes, he's investigating who left the bloody toilet seat up again.
Give it away. Cheese, anybody?
Oh, well, I had it over again.
Hey. Yeah, there you go.
How can you see the car? Where is it going on?
Can you not see what's going on?
No.
Where are we off to next then, Harry?
Behind us.
Behind us? Okay.
Yeah.
If I go that way.
So this is the, works the Lion King. Did you recognise it? Works the Lion King. Look at that. You know, bloody everyone here, don't you?
Oh, it's a cross here.
So this here is number 36, Benjamin Franklin's house. Who's heard of Benjamin Franklin? He's an American bloke he is. No,
President.
not president. He was one of the founding fathers of the American Constitution. So he lived here 16 years before the uproar that happened in America as such. The house here, it was renovated before the year 2000. 1998 I want to say it started renovating. And then it opened as a museum in 2006. So of course you've got some differences and change in there for the museum. But you do have the original staircases, floorboards, ceiling, just as it was when Benjamin Franklin lived there. So yeah, one of the founding fathers of the American Constitution. It's an important bloke. And on this street also, it's been said to believe that Charles Dickens had his inspiration for the door knocker on A Christmas Carol. Who's read A Christmas Carol?
I've seen the film.
You've seen the film. Who's seen the film A Christmas Carol?
In the film.
What ghost have you got? Can you name the ghosts?
Oh,
Future present.
Yeah, look at you, look at you, look at you. 5 brownie points. 5 brownie points for you. So look at the door knocker behind you at number 13. Chances are it could have been that very door knocker that Dickens looked at when he was a kid working down this way at a shoe polish factory. It could have been that very door knocker that got its inspiration for A Christmas Carol on that door knocker there.
so cool.
Talking of books and novels, who's heard of the novel Moby Dick?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you know who wrote Moby Dick?
No, Dickens.
Wasn't Charles Dickens? No. There's a blue plaque somewhere along the streets. I want you to go and find it for me, because on that blue plaque that'll tell you who wrote Moby Dick, and it tells you who lived there as well. It's probably somewhere down that way if you want to go down and have a little look. So look out for a blue plaque.
Herman Melville.
That's the one. Wrote Moby Dick in 1951. So yet again, another American he was. He came here as a young boy when he was a sailor, and he lived here at number 25 and wrote Moby Dick in 1951. Who knows what the story of Moby Dick is? Does anyone know the story of Moby Dick?
It's about a whale.
About a whale, sperm whale. So he goes out on this ship, comes across a sperm whale and cuts off one of the sailor's legs from the knee down. So it's the adventure of how they go back out again to try and find and kill and capture the sperm whale that did that to the poor captain.
Do you specifically?
And it's everywhere, isn't it?
Because considering their writers and everything, they were living quite bougie places.
Definitely.
I mean, nice, isn't it? It'd be like great. Never knew about it.
So the ship and shovel, right, we'll go in that corner there so not in the way, I think. That'll be good. So if you want to come this way to the left so you're not in the way, everyone.
Yeah, look, it looks like there's another tour going on over there. There's another tour going on over there.
So as you can see on the sign here that I didn't even know existed, can someone read that out for me?
The Ship and Shovel, the only London pub in 2 halves.
Spot on. Not anymore though. They've got a tunnel that's connecting underneath in the cellar. What do you notice about the spelling?
Shovel.
They spelled it wrong.
Spelt it wrong. It's with 2 L's. So originally it was the ship and the shovel before they merged together. It was called the shovel with 1 L at the time because when the coal haulers had come here after a day's work, they'll still be in their kit, still their shovels, and of course it's spelled shovel with 1 L. But then someone had the bright idea of adding 2 L's. So why do you think it was 2 L's? Looking at the picture there, where it says 77 Badger with that bloke there. Why do you think it was 2 L's then?
So you didn't know how to spell?
Well, not he didn't know how to spell, it's how his name was spelt. So he spelt the name with 2 L's, and that's when they said, you know what, we'll put his Admiral as a name instead then. Of course, like most places, a pub is named after a person or a thing, like the Duke in Sussex, that's a pub. Sherlock Holmes, that's another pub named after a fictional person. So just like here, spelt with 2 L's, Ship and Shovel.
So his name is Shovel.
His name is Shovel. So originally spelt with 1 L, then put a second L in to name it after the Admiral.
Badger is the beer.
We're going to leave this area now and head towards Embankment Gardens, which is down that way.
amazing. Yeah. Because that has been there for so long. It's just the dramas that have gone on in there. I know, because I used to go to the Princess of Wales.
Yeah, I was looking at the programme.
It's called an insect.
Now I know a bit of information about the embankment gardens.
Oh, do you?
A little bit.
Oh, I'd like to hear it when we get to it.
I know that they had to narrow the River Thames at this point, and the River Thames used to come up to here.
This is Donald Trump, you know, he's coming back for sitting on his balls.
Everybody look at Candid Canberra. When you're ready, put your hands up.
Not really doing anything, is it?
That's it, wonderful. Who's next?
The ball photo. Okay, now who is the youngest? Because they now have to walk over the ball.
When it was Village Street, and the Duke of Buckingham created this, in the 1860s, I want to say, 1865, I want to say it was, the street was actually cut off a bit more. Because the river used to come up to here roughly, hence what I say is Watergate Walk there. So the river used to come up to here. But as you said, there's a train behind us there. It was brought up to make room for the new district line that was coming in, and to make room for the sewers also. So the river used to be up to here, but not anymore. It got pushed further away. That also made room for the embankment gardens, which we're going to go to next. All right. Here, this one here.
Yeah, like as Harry was saying that the River Thames used to come all the way up to here. This used to be a king's private entrance to his riverboat.
Oh,
so
wow.
he used to come down here, and then that was his entrance, and his boat would be waiting and then they'd go off.
God, that's
I don't know
wild,
which king it is
isn't
though, or dates.
Poor people used to use it.
Is it real?
It is real, it's really nice. Is that a little cake shop over there?
Could be. There's also a bakery later on that we're going to go to if it's open.
Oh, okay, then I'll wait for the bakery.
Hopefully, if it's 1865, the river was pushed away by 50 odd metres. So with all this reclaimed land, decided to put some gardens here. So there's 4 gardens in total. You've got the temple in the east, the main gardens in the west, and you've got 2 hours that goes up the river and follows a strand. Now the reason why it's called a strand, that road there, because it basically means a bend in the river, hence why it's called a strand, because that's where there's a bend in the river that goes across that way towards the Shard as such. Yeah. Temple Embankment Gardens. Goes on the other side and come back again. Lots of walking today. That's brilliant. So I'd like us all to hold hands like this. Okay. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's it. Where's Rosie?
Where's Kanika? Oh.
Monty's having another week. He's
Marking his territory.
Yeah. I just
So we've got to thank Robert Burns for this. So are you ready? For old acquaintance be the God and old lands
Don't know the words.
said old acquaintance be the God for the sake of old lang syne.
Hey.
There you go. No, it was Robert Burns that made that. Robert Burns, he made the Old Lang Syne. Yes, we need to thank him. Now, no one knows what Old Lang Syne actually means as such. No. But he's very well known for the Romantic movement in his day and age. He's a writer, poet, novelist, that sort of malarkey. And after his death, he was also quite inspirational for those of the liberal and socialist thought, and those that then progress into social liberalism, what it is today. Yeah. Not too bad for a Scottish fella, is he?
For all, what are the words that Old Lang Syne? For old.
I think we'll just mutter it, really, don't we?
For old acquaintances. May old acquaintance be forgot.
did the gauntlets one.
Look it up. Christ Jesus, my country found me.
I mean, the Duke of York's monument, the army, they actually got the soldiers to actually pay a day's wage. They were forced to pay a day's wage for the Duke of York's monument. But when it comes to Charles II, I think it was, he actually paid for his own monument. So no doubt it might be due to a costing on why it's so small.
That the guy that plays Speed out of Hook actually came from Bury St Edmunds.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I like Peter Pan. Cleopatra's Needle, or seen it or know of it?
I know of it.
You know of it?
From the museum.
From the museum, okay. So Cleopatra's Needle, it was built roughly in 1450, 1500 BC roughly. And it was created by Thutmose III at the time. He put his own hieroglyphics on there. The hieroglyphics were placed on there to celebrate one of his battles that he won whilst in Egypt with his empire. So it was given to Great Britain as a gift. It was given to Great Britain as a gift, and that's because of the celebration of Nelson at the Battle of the Nile, where he defeated the French by outflanking them, sailing across the shallow shores and defeating the French. And it was also for this, the celebration of Alexandria, of his battle that he had in 1801 in the Nile Delta again. So it was given to Britain as a gift, but the British government would not pay for it. So there's a bit of an issue here. Egypt said, yes, have one of these needles, and there was 2 others that were made, but we didn't want to pay for it. So it was actually sponsored by someone called Sir William. He was a dermatologist. He sponsored to have it brought over at the cost of £10,000 at the time. In today's money, that's £1 million. We nearly lost this in a storm that happened in October of 1877. So £1 million gone just like that nearly. But eventually it was erected in 1878.
It's not too knobbly.
Yeah, luckily.
Yeah, you've got a car nose. Yeah, we've all got car noses.
Hang on, it didn't work. And again.
Ready? Look at the camera!
Cheese. Hold on.
We'll leave the Embankment Gardens. One last place that we're going to stop at for a statue here is Robert Raikes. He's considered to be the founder of the Sunday School. He had Sunday schools before his time, but he's generally tended to be the founder for Great Britain as it is. And the Sunday school, by nature, is usually a school that you go to on a Sunday, hence Sunday schools, and usually of a religious Christian nature.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave this lovely area now and go to a place of farts and gas and poo. How lovely. Carton Lane. Carton Lane. Right, can you smell that? Can you smell the gas and farts and poo? Can you smell it?
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes you can. This here, this lamp, it's not the actual original, because the original got damaged in a vehicle accident, so it's a replica. But here once stood the last lamp that is powered by biogas. So everyone's farts and poo within the city, they reused that gas and thought, I know, we'll put it in the lamps instead. Rather than bog standard gas, we use biogas instead. And they're located across the UK. You've had one in Durham, in Sheffield, and of course London as well. So it's called Carton Lane. What do you think the locals call it? Carton Lane, that's it, well done, well done. And Kanika said you should walk down here on the way back from work, didn't you? You said.
Yeah, and it did used to smell sometimes.
Did used to smell sometimes, look at that.
Look at that hanging basket. Oh, it's really cool, isn't it?
Got another orange one there as well. It's nice to see though. So,
Quite European.
I want you all, oh, as the bell goes, we'll wait for the bell. There it is. I want you all to cast yourself back to 1965. Who's heard of Bob Dylan? Yeah, a few of you have. What's known as one of the greatest songwriters of all time, Bob Dylan. He stood here, stood in 1965. Why did he stand in 1965? Because he stayed at the Savoy Hotel. He stayed here and he did one of his music videos right here. Subterranean Homesick Blues. Who's heard of that? No, well, that's one of his songs. He stood here, he was going through the placards with the lyrics and stuff like that, and it was here in 1965 where he did the music video for that. And it reached top 40 in America. It was number 39 on the charts in America. So yeah, there you go.
Chapel of the Savoy.
Now this here, it's the chapel was to be a medieval hospital. This is what stayed last of it as such, late medieval period. 1517, 5080 is roughly built this hospital. All that's left, like I said, is this now. The hospital master at the time, Thomas Berlin, he had a bit of a naughty chap he was. He was caught stealing treasures from the hospital and having sexual relations with the staff. So it wasn't really that well run, if you like, which is probably why it didn't really last that long.
Sounds like nowadays.
Sounds like nowadays, yeah. 1889 it was, the first luxury hotel in Britain. It was this place where you had electricity throughout the whole building, where you got hot and cold running water constantly. What's also quite interesting is you drive on the right hand side of the road here rather than the left. Now, does anybody have an idea why that is at all? So they've said it's because it's in ease of transport. It's on the right hand side of the road, so come in on the right, leave on the left, whatever it was. But it does go a little bit further back to that. So when you'd be on horse-drawn carriage, the driver at the front, rather than getting off and going all the way around the cart to open the door, it was just simply easier to go in from the right hand side, because all the person's got to do then is just open the door on the right and just let the lady out, hold their hand, let them come out of the carriage and straight into the hotel with ease. But something that's not quite well known about here is the unlucky number 13. Now 13 is quite unlucky. Now a chap came in the 18th, 19th century, can't remember his name, but he came here and he had a table booked for 14 people, so was not unlucky. But the 14th person dropped out, so it had 13 people there, so quite unlucky. Now back in that time, to go to dinner with 13 people, it would have been bad luck for the first person to stand up and leave. They would have got bad luck. So sod's law, this bloke was the first person to stand up and leave from this dinner. Went to South Africa 2 weeks later, got shot, dead. So quite unlucky. So what the hotel does now, if you've got a table booked for 13 people, they'll give you a 14th place for free. Now this here, what's this of? What animal is it? Cats. So this 14th person would be a wooden carving of a cat called Casper. So Casper the cat would sit with you if you've got 13 people, and as he sits with you, they'll put down a little dinner plates, knife and fork, give a full 3-course meal for free, just in case someone gets off on the table first and dies 2 weeks later. So there you go. There you go, Casper the cat. All right. So something else also about that hotel, to be a taxi driver here, you've got to pass quite a rigid system, but one of the things you've got to pass is a turn circle at the end of the Savoy Square there. If you can't go round at the end of that road there in one nice easy turn, you failed it. You can't be a taxi driver. Got these inside here.
Oh, never been down here before, have we?
You had a biopsy on Monday, and then you still get
So it's the last place. You've all done very, very well. The last place for the first walking tour. So what do you think of those old posters alongside there? Did you see it? Did you come in up down the alleyway to see it? Yeah? Yeah. So what's quite nice about here is a little bit, it's quite hidden. Because it's hidden, it can be a bit dangerous sometimes. I'll tell you why in a moment. But Nell Gwyn, that's named after the mistress of Charles II's wife. Charles II, like I said earlier, buried at St Martin's in the Field Church, just over there. But this place is also quite known to have a ghost here. Did you know about this at all? So most people went to the Nell Gwyn pub, which is quite nice, and so did quite a lot of actors. Being to know, you've got all the theatres around here. Actors and actresses, they would go to that pub afterwards. And this one poor sod called William Terrace, he was leaving the, is it the Adelphi Theatre? Is that how you pronounce it? We're going to go with Adelphi Theatre. You're going to be a Londoner as well. So he was coming out of the Adelphi Theatre after a good gig, and he was going to make his way towards Nell Gwyn. And because of how quiet and secluded it is down here, he was murdered. So the ghost of William Terrace is down this alleyway, and sometimes late at night you can hear him doing his song lyric and rehearsing his lines and stuff like that as well.
He's an actor, so he's alright.
He was alright. But he did get killed though.
Did after the pub or before?
Before the pub. He never made it to the pub.
That same pub?
That same pub, yeah. Around this area. So that's been their first walking tour. Okay, Trafalgar Square and Strand. I hope that was good enough for you. Yeah, that's good.
I liked every minute of it.
That's good. I can't remember where from. It was Remain and then came here. It was in 1978 on the 7th of September. His name was Georgy Markov. I think that was his name. And it was just simply down this bus stop here on the bridge, waiting for his bus to come to head off to the BBC. And a Russian spy, it was believed to be, came across and jabbed him at the back of the head with an umbrella. Of course, didn't really know what happened. He thought, what the bloody hell was that? I got bit by a mosquito or something like that. But no, it turns out when he came to his job later on, he felt a bit unwell. He had to go to a hospital and he died. So it's believed that a Russian spy poisoned him from the tip of an umbrella, dipped it into the back of his leg there, that released a little pellets ball that had poison inside of it. And the same pellet ball can be seen at the at Scotland Yard, the little collection they got there, I believe. So yeah.
I remember that.
You remember it, do you?
I do.
There you go.
Wow, that's amazing.
So if you're on Waterloo Bridge and someone jabs their back of their leg, go to the hospital.
Death by an umbrella.
So we're headed across the other side of the Waterloo Bridge now into Waterloo Station, okay? Go in the evening, if you're dressed, and you'll find this with a cocktail bar. So this building here used to be the Royal Hospital for Children and Women. It was built in the late 19th, early 20th century. It's no longer operational. I believe it's for accommodation rooms for students for King's College next door now, I believe, or something like that. But it closed in the 1970s, 1960s, 1970s. The reason why it closed is because there was a doctor there that was being a bit naughty and he used to do these experiments on depressed women. And he would lock them up in rooms for weeks or months or such and record them and see what happened and that sort of stuff. So of course a bit of a scandal, so it's shut. But now it used to be the Royal Hospital for Children and Women there. So now in Waterloo itself, a few features are for Waterloo because of the Battle of Waterloo that happened in 1815. So we spoke about Waterloo Bridge. You've got the St John the Evangelist Church just up there to the left that will walk past to access Waterloo Station. They've got Waterloo Station behind you. So Waterloo Station, many people think that was built because of the Battle of Waterloo again, like it was with these Waterloo churches like St John the Evangelist and Waterloo Bridge. But it was actually built to celebrate the end of World War I, because on the entrance here it says 1914 to 1918. And it originally was called Waterloo Bridge Station until they changed to Waterloo Station. Of course, that's where lovers meet inside the station underneath the famous clock there. And of course, is it ABBA that's been filmed part of there on their what's it called?
When they sing Waterloo.
Yes, yeah. On their what's it called now? When they just pop out of nowhere, then everyone comes together. Flash that one, flash mob. That's it. There's been a few flash mobs that's been known at Waterloo Station. So we'll go that way to look at St John the Evangelist Church, then we'll go to somewhere called the Larches, okay? Because we'll head that way, when it's clear of course, so we don't get run over. So John the Evangelist Church, I mentioned when I was at the old hospital there. So this is one of these Waterloo churches, as they call them. So to celebrate the end of the Battle of Waterloo that I've mentioned a few times now, they created Waterloo Bridge and a few of these churches that are dotted around London. There's a few things to celebrate the Battle of Waterloo, just like it was with the Battle of Trafalgar, simply because at the end of Napoleon's rule, his empire in mainland Europe in 1815, and a great victory for the Duke of Wellington. So we'll head that way now to the Larches. Who's got good eyesight? Who's the best eyesight here?
Me.
Okay, Rosie.
Yes.
Where it says Waterloo Station, in between 1940 and 1918, there's words that go around it above the clock. Can you read that at all?
Yeah, so Belgium, Italy, Tennessee, France.
I didn't actually see that. I thought, what's she reading?
Egypt and North something.
It's got the word sea at the end, North Sea, looks of things. So you've got countries this inside that road you said there, so Belgium, France, Italy.
No, what's the third one? Man something. France.
My eyesight's not that good, but these countries that are listed is for those countries that are involved in the First World War. And on the inner circle there, in the semicircle, it says dedicated to the employees of the company who fell in the war. It's of course about World War One. So World War One started in 1914, ended in 1918, hence the dates on there. The Treaty of Versailles, that was a declaration of saying no, the war's officially ended. That was signed in June of 1919. And of course, quite a catastrophe of the war and what was caused and how countries got involved in it. Simply because all these countries were aligned with each other. So you had the Triple Alliance, the Triple Entente. Those were two powered against each other that I mentioned earlier on in the first tour as such. And because of everything that happened, these arms race, trying to get more empire within the state, this imperialism, nationalism, it all got quite nasty. And it was the First World War that led to the great development of technology that you had throughout the 20th century of your Second World War, and then your Vietnam War, and stuff that happened in the Middle East as well. From the First World War that sort of started off as this advancement in technology.
And there's Royal Britannia. Oh, there's a man in it.
That is a man. Super.
Look at her with a dagger.
Is there any questions on this one at all?
Yeah.
Super. We'll cross the zebra crossing, or zebra, wherever you say it, and head right on.
Look at that pillar on the right. Are you going through it?
Yes, we are. So this place here is called Leek Street Arches, otherwise known as the Larches. This is a legal community space for people to go in and spray paint and do their artwork. So have a look. Know that there might be something controversial in there, or there might be something quite interesting or fascinating. As you walk through, look to your left and right and you'll see some old archways on the inner part of the wall. We'll talk about that later on, but just take note on where they are because we'll be talking about them. Okay? So walk through and enjoy.
We go in that way.
We're going that way. What's great about it, that might be there today, but tomorrow might not be there.
Yeah, that's what people were just saying.
It's very cool. Scaffolding. go, there's one doorway that we need to take out for later. We're going up that way. So we're going up that way. This part here, we've left Waterloo, now in a place called Lambeth, Lower Marsh. Why do I think it's called Lower Marsh?
It's where the marshes were.
Where the marshes were, exactly. So behind us right there, where you got your bridge and wall, used to be something called the Canterbury Music Hall there. That was built in the 1850s. All gone, all destroyed. That's because of the Second World War. Don't mention the Germans, okay? Due to the Second World War. And famous people like Charlie Chaplin used to perform there, and there's another one used to be right next to it as well, but like I said, all gone. You can look on images online at artwork and old newspapers if you wish to see it, but no, not there anymore. But we'll head up that way. We'll go up the road a little bit and turn the left to go to the Duke of Sussex, because there's a pub there called Duke of Sussex there. And there's a little mini garden as well, alright? The Canterbury Music Hall.
Oh, music hall.
Canterbury Music Hall. 1849 I want to say it was built in.
So you said about Lambeth. Is this where they did the Lambeth Walk then?
I don't know what that is, I'm afraid. Now what is it?
Doing the Lambeth walk.
So Lambeth, the word Lambeth came from the Latin word, which basically means to bring sheep here. So of course, on marshland, Lambeth, bringing the sheep, and this area must have had lots of sheep by. Right there, where there's a billboard for Specsavers, that's where that Canterbury Music Hall used to be, and then one to the left of it. Right here.
What year did you say?
1849, I want to say it was built in, I want to say. No, that wouldn't have been there. So this place here, you can't see the front of the building because we're on this side of the road. You'll see it better on the other side. But this used to be the old Necropolis Railway. So the Necropolis Railway, Necropolis.
Necropolis.
So when you went through the arches, and I said look to your left and right, you'll see there's little mini archways where it used to be doors to go through. They used to be filled with dead bodies to be taken here. There's a special lift to take the bodies down. And they'll take you to Brookwood Cemetery. I want to say it was called Brookwood outside of London, because being in the inner city, all the space got filled up, wasn't enough space. So you have first class, second class, third class. The service only ran if there's a first class and second class passenger on board. If you was third class, you would wait in the arches down there. And something like if it was first class, your coffin would be taken straight away. If you were second class, your coffin would be put into the ground, it would stay there for so long. If it was third class, your body would just gone out of the city, just gone, just like that.
Wow.
Oh no, look at the window.
So the ghost doesn't come out. So we'll head that way to the corner. I'll briefly talk about Lincoln Chapel, and then we'll go towards the Southwark, where the pubs are. All right.
Considering we're so close,
Seems to be okay.
it feels like you are on the outskirts of London. They've hidden the road fairly good, haven't they?
They have.
Yeah.
So I've got an extract to read out. It's by George Sala, don't know if you've heard of him, from 1862, Twice Around the Clock, and it's about this place here. Women appear there in their most unlovely aspect, brazen sovereignly, dishevelled, brawling, muddled with beer or fractured with gin. The howling of beaten children and kicked dogs. The fumes of the vilest tobacco of stale cordery. Suits of unwashed soddens. Unkept, reckless humanity. All these make the night hideous and the heart sick. The New Cut is one of the most unpleasant samples of London that you could offer to a foreigner. That's like this place here.
What, this actual...
This area here that you're seeing now. So since 1862, they've done all right, haven't they? They've done all right. So we're about halfway on this one. I'm just going to show you something that's a little bit of a local feature here. It's literally about 2 minutes away. Then we'll head towards the end to finish this one up. All right, and that includes your bakery as well. Okay. It's not any squirrel, it's a London squirrel.
It's cross between the red and the grey, look that.
Very nice.
I'm going to show you here this little local thing. So of course, dotted around London you've got various blue, green, different plaques like that. That's something that someone created.
I did life
Locals.
here.
You've been here, have you?
I have, yes.
No, Georgina's been here.
I drew a naked lady here.
A naked lady you drew here.
Brenda's the old Vic.
So the Old Vic, legend has it, Queen Victoria went there once to see a show. So they put her name on it to call it the Old Vic for Old Victoria, to try and encourage people to go there, saying, look, Queen Victoria's been here, come on, look, this is where the Queen goes to try and get a bit more money out of their performances there. So there you go, the front of the Old Vic by the Carr. When I read that little extract by George Saller that was explaining the Carr, this was the area that he was referring to. So literally it was just right over there, about 200 metres away. He was referring to this area here. Look behind you, if you just come away from the crossing, look behind you. Fire Brigade Station. So that used to be the Fire Brigade for Waterloo. Then it got converted into a nice little pub. Right, so this is a very Carr thing to do. I did not know this was here, but Bar Elba. Why do I think it's called Bar Elba? Considering we're around Waterloo.
Idris Elba used to come here a lot. Is that right?
Well, it could be right. I've got a gut feeling because of Napoleon. So, Battle of Waterloo, that was fought against the Duke of Wellington against Napoleon. Napoleon was sent away to the Isle of Elba. So that might be why it's called Bar Elba there. Who knows? On Rupel Street.
This is like that. Yeah. And that's really posh in there, and that's the sort of cake I was expecting.
So whilst you're waiting to go and have a little explore, does anybody recognise this road down here from any movies or TV series?
It reminds me of the Cray brothers. Yeah, Tom Hardy's. I don't think it is this, but it's like the Freemasons.
Well, what I do know is Doctor Who, Mr. Selfridge. That's been recorded and filmed down here. So once we've been here, we'll walk down to the street here to Rupel Street. There should be a blue plaque somewhere down there that we can talk about. And that's when then venture onwards.
So Mr. Selfridge was Selfridges.
Yeah.
What the programme said.
The programme, yeah. In 1768, it was the Asses that created the first circus, where you'd have your elephants and the clowns later on. It was these chaps here, Philip and Patty Astley, that did the first circus. So this is the old Citroen that I mentioned about. Darren did some research for us because he's into his cars. Was it 48 horsepower, Darren? 48 horsepower, look at that.
What's it called?
There was someone called Mr. Rupel that built up these houses, and that's for his workforce with a factory nearby. I want to say it's a munitions factory, I want to say it was. It very nearly did get all burnt down though. It did nearly get burnt down. So somewhere around here you might see a little plaque above the door. That's a fire insurance plaque. So when a fire would happen and the fire brigade would come down, they'll look up and see where these plaques are. If there's no plaque, they'll let the building burn. If there is a plaque, they'll then put it out. And then they've got fire insurance. 80585. There's your fire insurance plaque I was mentioning about. So when this whole lot nearly caught alive, that's when they then installed these plaques. So those plaques, fire insurance, yeah. You've got another one just over here that's got a sun on it. 12557. So when there would be a fire and the fire brigade would come down here, if they've got a plaque, it means they've got fire insurance. So the fire brigade will put out the fire. If there's no plaque, they'll just let the building burn. Fire, it might be a potential stop for lunch or a late afternoon snack or something like that. So this area here, a few things around. got an old station entrance over there. You've got a blue plaque just to the right of that. We're not going to go to the blue plaque, but I'm going to talk about it instead. So the blue plaque is to talk about the fact that there used to be a church here. There used to be someone called either Mr. Dick Bird or something like that, and he was a boxer. This area here, there used to be a chapel there called Surrey Chapel. It was a round church, but now it's got the part for London Transport or something like that in there. That's where Surrey Chapel used to be. Now this bloke called Dick Bird Dick, something like that, he bought that chapel in 1910 before it then got destroyed and turned it into a boxing ring. If you come ever so slightly up here and look to your right, you've got something called the ring. So Surrey Chapel was turned into the ring. At the top of that pub, that's where you had your little boxing circle also. No longer a boxing club, that's where it once stood.
Oh, look at that.
So we're going to cross the road, go behind where Surrey Chapel used to be, and head towards a house where someone used to live in. Okay? So on the first tour, when we went down Northumberland Avenue Street, we went down something called Craven Street, where we had Benjamin Franklin's house at Moby Dick. And I said that Charles Dickens had the inspiration for the door knocker from A Christmas Carol there. Well, he would have walked from there, he would have come through here, and if you read this here, he would have come across Blackfriars Bridge there. He would have come this way because when his father was in prison, I can't quite remember the name of the prison as such, the whole family could live with him as well. So whilst his father and family lived there, he'd go out to work as a child, he would come down here too, and that's why he's got Charles Dickens there as a quote that he said. But it's also quite important because of this here at the top of it is a dog licking a bowl, and that's what this little plaque here is about. So once stood here would have been an old blacksmith, and that's what the dog licking a bowl represents, an old blacksmith shop at the entrance. So of course no longer here, instead you've got Rowland Hill, Union Street, Blackfriars Road instead as such. So we're going to head down Union Street, which is quite ironic, being the transport of London's departments there, so the taxi drivers and the bus drivers got a bit of an uproar. They can come on Union Street and see them. It's a bit ironic. So there's another blue plaque here. You can see where the blue plaque is.
Mary Wollstonecraft,
Wollstonecraft, 1759 to 1797. Who has heard of Mary Wollstonecraft? It says on there, writer, teacher and champion of women's rights, a feminist. She's known for a vindication of women's rights, I believe the book is called. I want to say it was published, or when was it published now? I want to say 1752, I want to say it was published. But she lived here between 1759 and 1797. Or and told off. 3 gentlemen that got caught and told off. Can't remember their names. And it was for sodomy. One of them got shipped off to Australia. I want to say either the other one got executed or 2 of them got executed. They were the last 2 to be executed for sodomy, but I can't remember who the people were and what they were called. But it was around this area when they got caught doing it. Say that again?
It's a testing we've seen for construction.
It is. Do you know, of course, it says Kirkcaldy, do you know the first person's name?
Yeah, testing.
Not testing Kirkcaldy, David.
Yeah.
David Kirkcaldy. So he was a Scottish chap, came in 1874, and he opened the first purpose-built testing, testing commercial items, materials as such. So that building there, purpose-built, so the stairs, the ceiling, the floor, all built around to be part of this massive machine in there. And you can go in there when it's open, something like once a month or something like that. Sorry?
First Sunday of the month.
First Sunday of the month, there you go. First Sunday of the month. Thursday, I say. First Sunday of the month as such. And you can go in there, see how the machine works and do some testing. And it was about not so long ago, they were testing the tension of a bit of string and how strong it can be by tying knots in it and how they can change how many knots a bit of string has. So it did all sorts of work in there and still open to this day. A knotty bit of string.
So, as you can see, these flats, they are accommodation, and how the windows go from ceiling down to the floor, so you can see into the property. On the Tate Modern, there's a viewing gallery, so you can see a really nice view of London and everything. And obviously everyone would look into their houses because it's just like, why wouldn't you? Because it's all on display. And they had a petition saying that they wanted to close the public gallery because everyone kept looking into their house. But they lost the case because they were like, well, you knew that you were buying a property with no curtains, and that's your choice to not have curtains.
They're probably only there 9 till 5.
There's a bloke sitting on the toilet over there. Look.
I think it's quite funny that.
And there's a bed, and there's a bed up there.
Do you mind if me and George, can we use the loo here?
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. I'm gonna
So, because of time, we won't talk about the globe on London Bridge or Tate Britain. Just pass by and let them look. Hopefully, they won't realise I've got to talk about it.
Who's got to talk about it?
I've got to talk about it. Yeah.
That is now the end of the official side of it. So you'll take your hat off now, obviously. And,
There you go. Glad you enjoyed it. Glad you enjoyed it.